Batman and Robin number 17, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason. This is kind of just a one-shot, and I'm sure that next issue we're going to pick up and everything will be totally fine. So, we open up with Batman and Robin coming back from a long night of work, back into the Batcave. They're chowing down on some of Alfred's sandwiches, and he's like, oh, well, I'm glad someone appreciates my oatmeal cookies, as we see Titus is just eating them off the table. As Bruce and Alfred start making their way out of the cave, Damian picks up Batman's boot, compares it to his own, and sees how much bigger Batman's shoes are to fill, quite literally. And then they all make their way upstairs, go their separate ways down 3 different hallways, and all turn out the lights to go to sleep. And then we just get 3 different dream sequences. So we open up with Damian's. He's inside a submarine, and outside the window are the drowned, dead bodies of not only Bat villains, but also Red Robin, Red Hood, and his mother. And then a different version of himself comes in to talk to himself, and he's like, hey, are you looking at Batman's cowl? Which is then suddenly filled with Batman's head as well. And he's like, yes, it's a reminder that our father has shown both sides of himself, just as we have to him. Remember, you're a Wayne and not a Al Ghul. And then all of a sudden outside the window, a new body drops down, and it's still alive, and it turns out it's Alfred. And Alfred starts screaming and banging on the glass, and one of the Damians looks to the other, and the one Damian's shocked, but the other one looks to him and says, like, psh, there's nothing more that any of them can teach us. And then all of a sudden Damian shoots awake, and he looks down at the foot of his bed, and he sees a robin there. And he's like, wow, that's a bit on the nose. And he grabs the robin and says, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. Just show me what you want to show me. And he sets the robin free. And then he hears a bell ringing as he's making his way through the halls chasing the robin. And he sees Alfred, and he's like, Alfred, I think that my father's calling for you. He's like, actually, he's calling for you, Master Damian. And so Damian follows the robin along with this dog. They make their way into the library. And inside is Bruce sitting on his chair with a giant bat perched around him, biting his neck. And he says, Damian, won't you join me? And then Damian wakes up again, but like for real, I guess. Then we get Alfred's dream, where he's talking to Thomas Wayne, who's got a necklace for Martha, and he's like, oh, Master Wayne is beautiful. Do you want me to wrap it for you? And he's like, I have the skills of a surgeon. And he's like, right. And you can't rap for shit. And he's like, fair enough, wrap it up, Alfred. And so he goes ahead and he hands that off to his wife. His wife opens it up, and turns out it was the pearl necklace, and they're on their way to the theater that night. So Alfred then sees some bats in the kitchen. He follows them to the fridge, which opens up down into the Batcave. And when he gets down there, Joker is using a hammer to beat the crap out of the Bat family, all of whom have been Jokerized. And Alfred says, that's quite enough, clown. And Joker's like, oh yeah? I'll put down the hammer right between your eyes. And Alfred pulls out a shotgun and blows his head off. And I'm not saying that metaphorically. I'm saying we see Joker without a head. And Alfred's like, I told you that was enough. And all of a sudden Alfred shoots awake. He lays his head back down looking a bit sad, but then when he finally closes his eyes, he smiles. Like, yeah, that was a good dream. And then we get Batman's dream, where he's down in the sewers, and if you remember back in, like, issue, I think it was 1, honestly, Batman made a little paper boat. Here his parents are saying, like, you can't just build a boat and hope the darkness magically sails away on it. And he's like, why not? It's my boat. But as the boat sails down the sewer, we see all of a sudden an explosion coming out of the water. And the sewer floods, and the boat becomes huge. He's trying to bring his parents onto the boat, but he's unable to do so. And then all of a sudden, all the villains are around, and they're saying, oh, get the bat, get the bat. And Batman's trying to keep them off of his boat so that they don't, like, tip it over and cause it to sink. And then from the ocean beneath comes a giant white whale in the shape of the Joker, more or less, and it devours his boat. And so Batman is left into the water. He looks back up at the surface, and he sees Damian reaching his hand through the water to pull Batman up. And then Bruce wakes up. He goes into Damian's room, tucks him into bed a little bit tighter, And then we get one more scene of Damien's dream, and it's him and Batman just going out crime fighting, doing all the things they have been doing over the course of this series. And he says, all right, another hard day's night is done. And as the sun rises over Gotham, they're sitting on a church cathedral, just eating some food. And Bruce turns to Damien and is like, you do know this is a dream, right? And Damien's like, yeah, of course, but it's one I don't want to wake up from. And that's the issue. I'm sure that nothing bad will happen to Damien by the next issue, and everything will totally be fine. So, in terms of this one, I like it. We just had that Batman and Robin annual, which was just kind of a little interstitial of, hey, here's just, building their relationship. Here's just a little thing doing that. I think that this is a good of showing everybody's internal space right now. It shows Damien as still being conflicted over his murderous past and whether or not he's actually growing here with Batman, but still wanting to be with Batman. We see Alfred wants to protect his family despite not being entirely suited to do so, and how much he really wants to kill the Joker. And then we see Batman struggling for not a normal life, but just a life where he doesn't have to fight so much, I guess is what it's saying. He's fighting off all these villains, and he feels like he's going under because of it. And Damien's the one thing that's able to pull him back. I think it does a fantastic job of showing all that. It's a nice little interstitial of, yep, here's what everyone's going through right now. Here's just a night in the life. So I'm going to give this one I almost want to say 8, but that does feel... No, I'm going to say 8. I think this is a good issue. This is a nice solid piece of work from both writer and artist. Everything looks great. It's very surreal at times. You can feel how one panel evolves into the next, but it doesn't have any sort of logical standing of like, okay, why was the Batcave in the fridge? But then beyond that, it doesn't really matter because it is all just a dream, and it's set up that from the beginning. So yeah, 8 for this. Really do enjoy it.